Okay, I wanted to take a second and go over some basic meter use information. I have some students that get hung up on where to put the meter or where to put the leads, so I wanted to try to cover some of that real quick. Most of the time in automotive, we're going to be using, if we're checking voltage, we're going to be using the voltage DC scale. That's represented by the V with the flat line and the three dots below it. You can see that there's different ranges that you can turn to there. So you could go 200 M, which is millivolts, or you could go 2 volts, you can go 20 volts, all the way up to 200 and 1,000. So we're not going to get that high in automotive. Most of what we deal with is going to be in the 12 volt area, so we're going to deal with the 20 volt scale. Now if you look down below that, you have another V for voltage, but you have like a little wavy line there. And that's an indicator of AC voltage, and not something you're going to be dealing with on automotive stuff unless you're dealing with an alternator, which is going to be a pretty rare situation. Okay, next up is right here you have the omega symbol for ohms. Here you have a symbol for a continuity test, and it shows like a little sound wave, and that's because this meter will beep when you have continuity. So ohms, we have 200, 2,000, 20,000, 200,000. This meter is not auto-ranging, which means you need to figure out what position it is, or what position that needs to be in, depending on what circuit it is that you're testing or how much resistance you expect to see on that circuit. Some meters do that for you automatically. So you can choose like a high one and see if you get a reading, and then slowly decrease it till you start to get a reading, and then it'll move the decimal place over on your actual reading. So you should be able to figure it out even if you're not really sure. Okay, next up down here we have amps. Again, we have a large A, solid line with the three dots below it. So this is DC amps. So this is where we're going to be dealing with on automotive stuff. Now on that scale we have 20 amps, 200 milliamps, 20 milliamps, and 2 milliamps, which is a very small amount. Right next to that you've got amps with a squiggly line, and that again indicates AC AC amperage, which we don't really deal with on automotive. Okay, and then the next thing that hangs people up is where to put the leads. So the black lead is always going to go here in the common port. And then you have to ask yourself what you're testing. Are we testing voltage? Are we testing ohms? If we are, then your red lead is going to go into this socket here. It's for voltage, ohms, or even hertz. Now, if you're going to be doing an amperage test or a current draw test to see how much current is being used by a certain load device, well, you need to sort of know how much power that load device is going to be using, because you have to choose which socket to go into. If we're looking for a small amount of current being used, like for a parasitic draw test, we usually can safely go into the milliamp socket with our red lead and do the test. A normal parasitic draw we're looking for should be in the 35 to 50 milliamps, maybe as high as 85 on some of the newer vehicles, but that's still below even 1 amp. So parasitic draw, we can use milliamps. If you're not sure, you're going to want to use the larger 20 amp section. Now this one, as you can see, says unfused, so that means if you exceed 20 amps in this socket, you're likely going to burn the meter up. Many meters will say 10 or 20 amps and it'll say fused. And so if you hook up your leads here and you draw more than 10 or 20 amps across it, you're going to burn the fuse internally that's in the meter, and then you have to disassemble the meter and then find a new fuse to actually replace that, and then your meter will actually function properly again once you get that done. So that should cover most of the testing you're going to use this meter for in automotive. Voltage DC, ohms, amperage DC, and then just choose your sockets. So these are the amperage current draw sockets. Common is always going to be common, and then we got voltage and ohm socket there. Hope that clears it up for you.